A couple things before we do get into the presentation. One of the announcements I would like to make is starting in February. In February, the school board is going to 2 board meetings a month, the 2nd and 4th Mondays of the month, with the 4th Monday being all bond and facility related. The second, so if you want updates on the facility projects and things like that, come to the meeting on the 4th Monday. It will be in the boardroom at Central at 6:30. Everything will all be the same. The second thing I would like to do before the major part of the presentation is to let the community know and introduce, many of you know her, Amy Muilenburg, and we have selected her pending board approval next Monday as the new principal of Gib Olinger. And she has a couple things that she would like to say. Very few.
I was told I would come up here and say. I just wanted to let everybody know this is a huge honor for me. One of the questions that Rob often asks all of us is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I really had to ponder and think about that question, because I feel like I kind of started my career backwards a little bit. I started with Intermountain ESC, and I was in kind of what you would say the district office part of that for a while, and realized, wait a minute, I got into education because I love working with kids. I want to be where I have kid contact daily. And so, when you start thinking, when you're going through your admin, where will you land when you want to retire? And I can't see myself at this point in my career being in the district office. So what is the next step? Well, that would be to be a principal of a larger school. And so I'm just excited to have this opportunity. Honestly, there are times when I'm so excited and then I'm scared to death, and then I start thinking about numbers, and then I'm driving the other day and my son said, Mom, are you listening to me? No, son, I'm thinking about how you're going to run lines through the cafeteria with the number of kids that we need to serve. And he looked at me like, oh my word, you crazy. So anyway, again, thank you. I'm just so excited for this community, and I look forward to Gib Olinger being the center of this community, and a very prideful passing of this bond, and it's a great event. So thank you.
We're excited about everything that Amy brings to the school, and we are. When we meet as administrators, 90% of the time we're excited and we're fired up, but there is 10% of the time when we really look at each other and say, this is overwhelming. And this will be a big change for a lot of us. Going from elementary school of 275, 280 kids to an elementary school of 560, 575 kids, that would be a big change, and that will involve a lot of planning and a lot of preparation, and we're just excited about the opportunity. Now I'm done talking. Scott Rogers of Wenaha Group is on board.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks, everybody. And before we get started, I'm going to pick on you a little bit. So, I obviously being the role I'm in with the district right now as the project manager, kind of the clerk of the works. I had the pleasure of working with Amy for 7 years. We were both at ESD. And Amy has always struck me as an educator for all the right reasons, and the person that you want teaching your kids. So congratulations to you, very heartfelt congratulations. So I'm excited. And obviously we've been working together, kind of joined at the hip for a while now. We're going to talk through this in a little bit. What I want to do is talk through a little bit. I know we had a couple questions. Malcolm was already asking me when you're going to be knocking down that Senate building. So we'll get into that in a moment. So what I want to do is spend a couple of slides kind of talking through schedule and budget, where we're at today. And then I'm going to turn it over to Kevin Cole, principal at Architecture West, is here. And I know a lot of people, you want to see what the building looks like. So I don't want to take too much time, but I want to address questions and comments. So we also have sitting back there, actually, our Vanna White for this evening is Jason Terry, Senior Project Manager with Kirby Nagelhout Construction Company. I roped Jason into working the mouse for me during my little PowerPoint here. So, Jason, if you don't mind. A little second, there we go. So, question, and I know a lot of you are interested in this. So, real quick, a couple of takeaways. So, Gib Olinger, that's really where the design team and the core team, that core team consists of Kevin and his design group, myself, Jason and his Kirby Nagelhout team, and then, of course, on the district administration side, we've got Rob, Amy, Aaron Duff, who's principal at Freewater, David Marshall, our assistant deputy superintendent, and then Tim Truman, principal at Central Middle School. We meet every week, go through that. We've been really kind of focused on Gib Olinger, growth, the district-wide work, and of course the transportation facility. But tonight I really want to kind of take the time to focus on the Gib Olinger site. So what we've been doing, and Kevin's team kind of completed the schematic design. So what we call the SD is really sort of putting what we call like the foundation, the bones of the building together. You know, approximate square footage, really getting the design, what we call the programming elements sort of nailed down. And then as we move into the next phase, the design development, that's where we kind of really start sitting down and talking through the specific components of that building. So we've already had some discussion. We've got a meeting coming up on the 15th where we're going to meet and sit down and walk through some of the kind of start talking concepts on the finishes. And then with the thought being again, that we can then maybe go back out to our staff, have those kind of engaging discussions. So once we get done with what we call the design development, the DD phase, Kevin's team loves what we call construction documents, where they get to sit down and just start cranking out all those big sheet drawings that you're all probably familiar with, all the intricate details, the engineering elements. Kevin's team just goes to the grindstone, pushing all those documents out. Again, during this entire process, one of the value adds of having a general contractor, construction manager, general contractor, CMGC to the table is we're able to talk budgeting and estimating before we even get out on the market. We already have a pretty good understanding of what we're looking at from a budget standpoint, and that allows us as a district to get a good hard look at looking district-wide. You probably have all heard horror stories where, you know, a district or a public agency may have 5 different projects. And if they hard bid all those out, the first one out of the gate, man, they're the ones that pick up all the money, and then you're left at the tail end of it, trying to make sure you got budget to go around. We're ensuring through this process that we're taking a hard look at all of the projects and all the commitments that the district's made to the community to ensure that we're able to deliver upon that. And so we're focused on Gib, but we're not losing sight of what we call big picture budget. So after we get done kind of completing the bidding process, that May of 2017, and I know, Malcolm, to your question, when you knock it down the Seneca building, right now we're looking to knock it down in May. We have, I kind of put down at the bottom of that, we're trying to figure out, you know, we want to be good stewards of tax dollars. We don't want to go in and just, I personally would love to have knocked the cannery down by now. But if we're going to mobilize, get Kirby Nagelhout out on site, call it perimeter fencing, get them mobilized on site, we want to make sure that we're making good use of the district's dollars. So we're trying to figure out what's the best and most optimal time to address that. But starting construction again right in that May of 2017, and then we've got a finish schedule of 2018. So again, Amy and her team are moving on those incoming kindergartners for 2018 school year. That's where they're going to start their year. Questions on the schedule? Yes, sir. Back.
It says complete construction documents April 2017. Does that mean that they go out for only have a month to put in a bid?
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll finish that, and then the Kirby Nagelhout team will put those out on the street. We've got about a 30-day window for bidding. Again, part of the value in the CMGC process is Kirby Nagelhout is out there kind of ringing the phones, if you will, already starting to talk to subcontractors. As we get done with the schematic design, we'll start making phone calls and engaging with the local contractor community to kind of market the district's projects, but also B, build some awareness of the projects within the region. But to your question, yes, we'll be out on the street for probably 30 days.
Will you have an open house where the documents are out and people will be invited in to talk about them?
Yes, sir. We'll have, Jason, you wanted to say, raise your hand.
Well, I was just going to say, yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Both before the bidding process and during the bidding process, we'll have open houses in the valley, and then probably kind of area-wide, Tri-Cities at the construction council
How will
there.
they be announced?
What's that?
How will they be announced?
We'll advertise through the plan centers. So Tri-City Construction Council, who is kind of partnered with the Walla Walla Plan Center and Hermiston Plan Center. So we advertise through there, and then that gets spread to all the area subcontractors and suppliers.
And I would say any advertisement like that would probably be on our website. We're going to have links on our website that will mention those things, both our website and our Facebook page.
Yeah, and so of course, the district's paper of record will advertise there. We're going to go through, I know there's a half dozen kind of plan centers throughout the Pacific Northwest, Spokane, Tri-Cities, Hermiston, Seattle, Portland.
Could you speak up a little louder? Some of us are hard to hear you.
Oh yeah, sorry. I didn't want to shout into the microphone. So yes, sir. We'll be advertising throughout the Pacific Northwest in various plan centers. We'll also be advertising the district's paper of record, the Union Bulletin, and then we'll also be promoting to the district's Facebook and district website. But again, part of it is, sorry, it seemed like I'm shouting. So
It's good. It's
okay. Good. All right. But we want to get out and make this as competitive a bid as possible, and we're hopeful, fingers crossed, from an economic standpoint, that we're in a good lull where we've got a couple of other regional projects wrapping up. We've got bigger shops mobilized, and hopefully get some good return on the district's investment from a bidding perspective. Other questions regarding schedule? Yes, sir.
Who's the Wenaha Group?
So we're based in Pendleton. Actually, I live in Athena. So we're the district's project manager, so kind of the clerk of the works. So come on board. And my role has been to sort of come on board, whether Rob wants to bid or not, kind of sit next to him as a largely representative of the district. I consider myself a district employee as I kind of conduct myself from an ethical and just sort of pragmatic approach, and really see that the district's best interests are front and center as we go through this process. So my role to date, of course, coming on board was building sort of a tentative first blush at a master budget, master schedule, and then I really kind of bird dog, if you will, the procurement pieces. So how do we go about the solicitation and selection process, request for proposal process, to get an architect on board? That was kind of my first right out of the gate. Get an architect on board, crafting that scope of work, managing the solicitation and selection process for our architectural firm. And then once we get that on board, kind of going through some of the other, get them up to speed, kind of communicating the district's objectives, expectations, intent, and then moving right into some of the other procurement pieces. I don't want to bore you, so I don't want to. So, and then, of course, moving in is making the decision with the district about what's the best way to kind of contract with this, and at that time, construction manager, general contractor, and then going through the selection process, solicitation process for the CMGC, and kind of herding cats to some extent with all the different partners on behalf of the district. Did that answer your question? Yes, sir.
Between, you've got 13 months of construction.
Correct.
During that time, what will the average number of people be here in terms of our other businesses responding to them? What are we looking at? Is it going to be inconsistent? Are we going to have consistently 60 or 70 more people here, or 100 more people here, or what's the...
It will probably flow. I will say that that's a very popular question down at the sub shop. They ask me that quite a bit. How many sandwiches are going to be cranking out? And I just tell them, especially when we're moving into the finish work, where we've got painters, electricians, low voltage guys, roofers, landscapers. It will be busy. During the beginning phases, when you got a demolition contractor, earthwork contractor, probably not as much. But when we start getting in where the building's basically up out of the dirt, we're starting to run frame crews and get this thing, kind of basically dried in, where we got the roof on. Once we really start moving into the interior, it will be busy. So, I don't have a specific number off the top of my head, but it will be busy, and particularly that summer of 18, I would assume probably in that May of 18 through that late July time frame, with a big push to wrap the building up, it's going to be all hands on deck. Other questions or comments? I know we're trying to be brief, and I have the gift for gab, so I can be up here for a while if you like. Any other questions on schedule for Gib? Yes, sir.
I don't know too much about this. That seems like a tight schedule to me. Are you pretty confident we can do this?
We are confident in that. And again, I think, we've been nose to the grindstone planning on this for several months now. I'll kind of self-promote a few of our partners. Architects West has done a wonderful job. Kirby Nagel had already at the table. And again, the intent is that there won't be, like, traditionally when you go out and you hard bid, that contractor is really only looking at these drawings once they bid the job. And then they're sitting down and trying to figure out how all that works. One of the values of this is, Jason and his team at Kirby Nagel have already identified their team structure. They got the project superintendent, they got the project engineers. They're already starting to kind of pour through this with the intent being that they're familiar with this project before the break ground, before the bids are even in. They already know the stuff is building inside and out. So that, to your point, they're able to just execute on this, just equally. In addition to that, from a team standpoint, we as a shop, Wenaha, we do a lot of K-12 work. I know that from Architects West standpoint, 75% of Architects West work is education, particularly rural education. And I know that Jason Terry and his team are just coming off Hamilton School District work, and Kirby Nagel has done a ton of K-12 centric work in the Central Oregon area. So you've got a good team that comes together that really does a lot of K-12 centric work in rural communities. We take pride in that. So I think to your question, yeah, we feel good about the schedule. Other questions? Okay. Well, with that, I'm going to move on. Jason, if you don't mind. So and again, I know we're really here, we want to kind of stay focused on Gib, but I also want to give some visibility to some of the other work that we're looking to do here. So district-wide improvements. So we were having some discussion just yesterday, actually. We're starting to craft and clarify what the projects at Mac High, Central, Ferndale are going to look like. And so we're just kind of, we've got some district-wide budgets that we're going through right now, but we're starting to quantify what our schedule is. So stay tuned for what the phase 1 and phase 2 for the district-wide work will be, and how we're going to kind of focus our time and energy on that. Grove Athletic Complex, you can see that's really, we're going to not really touch that until the following, basically the summer of 2018. So our intent is that facility, which will be at the current Grove site, will come online probably in that October 2018 timeframe. And then finally, the transportation facility, which we're hoping to be located here kind of on the north side of downtown, will also be late fall 2017. Other questions about this slide before I move on? Okay. Jason, you mind? So how are we tracking on budget? So this is what we're living and breathing every day right now. Kind of going through some of this. So our current construction estimate at Gib is just shy of $21 million. We're trying to bring that into that mid-19. That's just what we're calling just our construction budget. So that doesn't include our soft costs. The district also has some contingency funds kind of set aside just in the event that we get in and something, we need to add this or add that. But we're really trying to come in at that $19.5 million construction budget. Transportation facility, current construction estimate about 1.8. We're trying to get in that closer to that 1.5 range. But I think to get back up to Gib, sorry, I meant to touch on that. As we move into this design development phase or the DD phase, we've already quantified, and Kevin will kind of highlight this in a moment, we've already quantified what our square footage looks like. So now we're getting down in the weeds, talking through what are our finishes look like, what type of flooring do we want here, what's our casework, our cabinetry look like, where are the doors, how much glass do we have? And so as we start really kind of filling in some of those details, we'll be able to better quantify and basically narrow down that budget. To be honest, when we started the estimating for the Gib, we were sitting at about $23.5, $24 million. So you can see, just as we work through this process, we start to tighten up some of those assumptions, put a little bit better clarity to what the building's going to look like. We really come down and tighten up what the budget looks like as well. Questions on budget for Gib? Okay. Jason, do you want? District-wide. So this is something I can't emphasize enough. There is far more need within this district, as many of you know far better than I. There's a lot more need than what we've got budget for. So we're trying to be very pragmatic. We're trying to invest We know that this is the crown jewel of the community. We want to ensure that this facility stays here for the next generations to come. So we're really trying to make sure that we address some of the deferred maintenance needs here, particularly the roof and the mechanical system. We're also walking through, we can't say enough, and I know I was just chatting with Mike earlier about student and staff safety. That to us is paramount. So we want to make sure that at all of the district's facilities that we take some steps to address some of the student and staff safety, particularly entry in and out of the building, student safety as they get on the buses. How do we properly exit and get in and out of this and largely kind of button up the buildings a little bit. Our intent is not to make them look like a prison, that's not at all. We just want to provide a level of security, especially at entry points for our students and staff. Then HVAC at Mac High and Central Middle School, roof at Mac High and also at Park at Central Middle School, replacement of some of the windows at Mac High and Central Middle School, and then a generator at Ferndale. Every time the power goes out, kids can't flush the toilets. It's a little bit of a challenging learning environment when we're dealing with that. So just kind of addressing a couple of these to ideally improve the student achievement. And then Grove Athletic, current construction estimate just shy of 1.5. And we actually talked through a couple of those options today, so we'll probably put a little bit more meat on the bones on that Grove budget as we get a little bit further into the design pieces of that. Questions on this slide? You guys are letting me off easy, come on. Okay, Jason, if you don't mind. Okay, well, with that, I'll turn this over to Mr. Paul.
Thank you, Scott. It's a tough act to follow. Well, as I think Scott alluded to, there's a lot of people working on this project. There's a really great team of people, not just Wenaha, and also our design partner office architecture is not with us this evening. We have an engineering team, structural, mechanical, electrical, and as we're starting to take the concept and move forward, they're really starting to come online now in some of the systems. And so there's a lot of moving parts and pieces right now, and it's really getting exciting. But one of the most important partners in this effort is the community in Milton-Freewater. It's really great to see the participation, both tonight.
Will you speak up, please?
Leading up to tonight. So it's been great to see the participation of the community, and again, you guys are the most important partner in this process. And what we want to do is take your feedback and try to assimilate your thoughts, your dream, your vision into the designs and the finished product. And hopefully when we're done, this community sees their fingerprints on the completed work. So today, hopefully you'll even see some of those things coming through in some of the imagery that we're going to look at. You go ahead and go to the next slide, Jason. So this is the floor plan, the concept plan that Scott mentioned that came out of the schematic design process. And I think it's very similar to at the last community meeting, that the concept is that we've been working with is continue to hold true and meet the vision that goes all the way back even before the pre-bond planning process and the work that was done leading up to the bond effort. Somewhere I have a laser pointer here. So just maybe a quick review, and then I'm going to shout out a couple of those finer details that are some of those fingerprints that have come out of some of the focus group workshops that we had back in October with some of the staff. So on the left side of the screen, this is the first floor of the building, and on the right side is the second floor. And this is kind of a pinwheel design with the center and the heart of the school being the commons and the administration area here on the left. And to the north side, the top side of the screen, I think we're losing a little bit of it behind the curtain there, but this is the gymnasium, physical education stage off of the gym. And then up in this corner is food service. There's actually an event entry on that side of the building, which when we get to looking at the site plan, we'll see there's a parking lot on that side of the building. And then we have these classroom pods, and there are a total of 4 pods. There's a K through 3 school, so there's 1 pod per grade. Kindergarten being this wing right here, and then There's a pod that stacks on top of that wing, and then another wing here, and then another pod that stacks on top of that one. So again, 4 pods and classrooms around a common space. So it is a big school, large elementary school, designed for around 650 students. One of the nice things about that pod design is that for each grade, it kind of creates a school within a school concept. So it's almost like having a smaller school within the context of a larger school. Any questions so far?
I have a question. Are you doing bathrooms in each room? Or that's what the whiteboards are, or they common bathrooms for pods?
Okay, so that's a good question. There's two different things going on. So for the kindergarten grade level, the bathrooms will be in the classroom. So this wing being the kindergarten, and these squares right here are those restrooms. And then for the first, second, and third grade, each pod has a set of restrooms. So for example, in this pod, there's a common restroom right here, which opens out into this hallway. It has some ability to be supervised from that collaborative space, but not directly off of that space. So there's some acoustic separation. Does that answer your question? Any other questions?
What's
Yes,
the
ma'am.
capacity for your auditorium?
The capacity for the auditorium. Are you referring to when you say auditorium, the gymnasium? Depending on how the seating is configured, but around 650. Yes, ma'am.
Where's the arts and music area going to be?
So in this concept, the music room is doing, the stage is doubled as a music room. So the way this will be designed is that stage will have a folding, acoustically improved wall that can close, and when it's closed, and that space functions as a music classroom, and then that can open up, and then it becomes the stage for the open to the gym.
Art?
There is no dedicated art space in the facility. That would happen in the classrooms or in the collaborative space. Yes, sir.
That 650 capacity, is that bleacher capacity that you're talking about in the gym?
Well, that's one of the things that we're looking at, and part of that is budget driven. So it could potentially be accommodated entirely in a set of retractable bleachers. There's a cost that goes with that. Right now, what we're looking at is a combination of bleachers and chairs. So if you look at this illustration, this rectangle right here represents a bleacher that would hold about half that number of people, and then the balance would be portable chairs that would be brought out on the floor. Any other questions? I have a couple more slides, so there'll be some more opportunity. Maybe we can go to the next one. I mentioned back in October we had a series of focus group workshops where we invited the staff to come in and chat about and provide input into the classroom design and some of the other areas of the building. And so I just wanted to kind of run through a list of things that we've modified in the design that were feedback that came from the staff from those workshops. So one is there was some concern about the amount of glass in the building, specifically glass in places down low where it might be a kind of a maintenance problem with kids and fingerprint and smudges and things like that. And so the reason we have transparency in the school is to facilitate supervision from classrooms to the collaborative areas in between spaces. That's really kind of a safety and security feature. So one of the things that we're doing, we want to maintain that transparency, but we're limiting and being very strategic with how we size those windows. We're bringing the window sills up off the floor, so the windows are primarily in the view range. Another thing that we've done, and I have another image where we'll look at kind of a classroom design, but we've studied a number of different ways to lay out the casework, teaching station, and some of the features that you find in the classroom, and kind of went back and forth with some different options, and I think we've settled on what I believe will be the option that will be carried forward, and we'll look at that in just a minute. We also, I think based on the last workshops we had, there was some concern about the allocation of space for some of the specialized learning. And so a couple of things that came out of that was we combined some smaller specialized learning spaces to create some larger rooms. And then we also carved out an ESL and RTI classroom set on each floor of the building. So now there's one set of those spaces on each floor. And this is a small thing, but just the details do matter. There was some feedback about how we would access the PE storage room, for instance. And so we had a single door access to the PE storage room, and we've changed that to a double door just to make sure there's a wide enough access for getting equipment in and out of that. Another thing we looked at doing is the stage that I mentioned, which is located right here off of that gym. That stage is elevated by a couple of feet, so there's some space under that, and we're going to use some of that for some additional storage. So it's just a matter of taking advantage of some of the features of the building for other uses. Another thing that we have to think very seriously about in the design of the building is how kids are going to flow from space to space when they go out to PE, when they go to the commons to have lunch, and all that traffic back and forth. And so in this building we have 3 stairways, and we try to strategically locate those so there's efficient movement of children and safe movement of children from space to space. So this red dot right here represents a stair. So if there's students that are in the upstairs portion of that plot can go down that stair and they're right out onto the playground, and when recess is over they can come right back in and go upstairs without going through the other teaching spaces and disrupting what may be going on with their spaces. So there's separation of traffic. We chatted about flooring patterns and how we might configure flooring patterns, not just to make the building look nicer, but also to create some traffic patterns and some organization in the school in terms of flow of kids. We have a central stair right here that allows children, again, to come from upstairs and get down to the cafeteria without going through the space below. And so there's some things that we've been thinking about, the core team has been thinking about, and I know that a lot of you have been thinking about. So I think we've got a really nice layout here. We're really excited about it.
Is there an elevator?
Yes, there is an elevator. The elevator is located right here, so it's kind of in the central location. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Are there any rooms that would handle lab type work, like science, like bosses and that type of thing?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part of what you said.
Are there any rooms that would accommodate science projects?
This design does not have a dedicated science lab. It's not something that's fairly common in a K-3 school to have a dedicated science lab. There are sinks in the classrooms, so there's those facilities available for that to occur within those spaces. Yes, sir.
There's big common areas in each pod. What's the design for that? What's the plan of usage?
So those are the common spaces. Those are places that allow for students to break out into smaller groups. And so, for instance, if there's activities going on in the classroom, a group of students could break out, be out in the common space because of the transparency that we have between the classrooms and the collaborative space. The teacher still has line of sight and supervision. But allows some of those activities to happen without disrupting what may be going on in the classroom at the same time. It's also, these spaces are also sized so that entire grouping of kids could have an assembly in that space at one time. And maybe, at the beginning of a section, they can all come together and talk as a group about what's going to be going on for that activity or that upcoming educational program. And then we can break out to their separate classrooms from there. I don't know if Amy, if you have anything more you wanted to add to that, it's a little bit of an educational question. I'm just a silly architect.
One of the guidelines that we have is that teachers have to be within sight and sound of a paraeducator that might be providing student support. So we could have technically a teacher that is sitting at one end of that, let's just say down by the RTI, and could be within sight and sound of 3 or 4 parents that are working with kids. One of our challenges that we have right now is we have to either do that in the classroom or we're transitioning kids. We waste a lot of time having kids walk from one classroom to another, and if you're at Grove, outside, in the rain, through the, so you're getting coached, you're taking them up. For me, this just makes us be able to teach you that utilize time very efficiently. That help?
Any other questions? I have one more slide that shows the classroom layout before we go there. Yes, ma'am.
For library?
Oh, yes. Very good question. Maybe we can go back one slide, Jason. The media center is on the 2nd floor. It's located right here. It stacks over the top of the administration area, so it's in a central location. But yes, the answer is there's a library that's right here.
Is that with computers?
There'll be space in there for computers, but there's not a dedicated computer lab. And the trend now is a lot of that activity happens in the classroom. I think the district is moving towards the one-to-one personal device. So that could happen. Those students can take their devices with them. They can be in the classroom, they can be in the cloud, they can be in the media center. Other questions?
What kind of flooring are you carpeting?
We haven't, that's a very good question, but we haven't made that decision yet. One of the things that we're working on over the next couple of weeks is our interiors team is looking at some different options for how we might configure the flooring. And so that's something we're going to be focusing on in the next couple of weeks and making some decisions. So it could be a hard surface, it could be soft surface, it could be a combination. Different spaces will demand some different kinds of flooring. The gym, we're looking at a athletic wood flooring system. That's the one thing I think that has been decided, but kitchen, of course, would be an appropriate flooring there. Commons is probably a hard surface. Classrooms in those areas we haven't decided yet. Yeah, so one of the things that will, as part of our study of flooring, is we'll be looking at not only just what the flooring looks like, but also what it costs, and then what the long-term costs are, life cycle costs are for those materials. And so, we have a budget we have to meet. So first cost matters, but we also want to think about what the long-term implications are going to be for the district in caring for that material. Yes, sir.
Any Mimeo boards or projection systems in the classrooms?
Yes, there will be some teaching technology in the classroom. A finalized decision on what that will look like. The baseline is an interactive projector and a voiceless system, which would have distributed speakers throughout the room, so that the teachers are wearing a microphone and takes all burden off their voice and allows the students, to hear better because of the acoustic amplification.
Are we not moving the
It's the presentation wall.
Are we not moving our boards?
For the campboards, kind of are obsolete now when their presentation walls are.
All right, okay.
Part of the challenge with the technology is so fast moving. We have some projects that we started and made decisions during design, and by the time construction starts, it's outdated. Or not outdated, I should say, but new versions have come out. And so that's something that is actually works. It actually makes sense to let that decision ride a little bit, so that we're not picking something today that there's going to be a new version of in 12 months. So those are some more discussions we'll be having. Yes, sir.
Is this design modeled after an existing school, or did you start from scratch and just come up with a compilation of ideas?
The answer is yes. There are some features of this that are similar to some other projects we've done, and so, one of the things, just with our experience in other K-12 design, we do bring some of those ideas forward. We have some ideas about things we've done in the past that worked well and things that haven't. Ultimately, this is a custom designed facility for Milton-Freewater, for your community, for your educational system. So it's really a combination of things. Maybe let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is just an example. I wanted to show you some of the things that we're looking at. We think, one of the cool things we're able to do today is we're able to more easily translate the ideas into three-dimensional models, which are more easy to kind of follow and understand. So we've done a number of different configurations for classrooms in terms of how the casework and the services are going to be configured. And this is fairly close to what I think is going to be the final design moving forward. On the left is a typical kindergarten space, and on the right is what would be a typical grade 1, 2, 3 classroom. And so the left side, this wall here, that's representative of the exterior wall of the building. And then this wall right here is that wall that is common to the collaborative, the common space in each pod. And I mentioned the transparency that allows the supervision from the classroom out to the collaborative space. So let's see, we have some windows here. There's some windows here above these student cubbies. And this window frame system will probably go down to the floor, but the bottom panel will be opaque material, not glass. It's some of the feedback we got on the glazing was not to clear glass down the floor line. And then we've looked at some different configurations for where the casework is going to be located. Tackable surface, writable surface. This kind of colored material right here is representative of a tackboard material. And then in the first grade classrooms, our casework and storage cabinets are going to be over here by the door, the sink. And one of the neat things about this design is it creates corners in the room, which are the teachers really, I think the feedback on that was very positive, and they will have those corners where you can take a group of kids in a circle time or that kind of thing and teach from those corners. And then our windows, outside windows, are actually at the corners of the room, and it's a little bit of a non-traditional approach. You'll see a lot of schools where the window is kind of centered in that outside wall. But what this design does is it allows that wall to be more useful as a teaching wall. And so that's pretty excited about kind of thinking outside the box there. And I think we have a really nice classroom design. It's the result of the collaborative effort and the input that's come back from the teachers and the staff. Any questions on that? Okay, that's all I got. Thank you very much. Bob, do you have anything more you want to add?
You've got a slide of the campus.
Oh, I'm sorry, I almost forgot about those. How could I forget about those? There are more slides. How could we forget these? So one of the things we've been doing is, and I think the last meeting we started we had some preliminary ideas of what the outside of the building may look like. And there's a number of different directions we can go with the architecture. And this is kind of where we've settled is we really want to be respectful of the context that we're in. This is on three sides of this site is a residential community, so we want to be respectful of that context. And so we've really kind of moved towards a sort of a sloping roof concept. Not all of the roof will be high slope roofs, some of it will be low slope roof, like what you would find on a big box store. And that's just kind of the nature of the beast with the size of the building. But around the perimeter, there'll be some sloping roofs, which we think is a very good fit for a residential neighborhood. And then we're looking at, so this material right here is brick. And what we're trying to do is make sure we have a brick base all the way around this building. And that's really, not only does that look nice, but from a long-term maintenance and longevity durability standpoint, I think that's very important. And then up above that brick material, we're looking at metal siding material, which again, nice, a little bit more economical, so being respectful of the budget, but also very durable and long-lasting material. So this is the view of the front entry. On the left, this is the main entry here. Get my laser pointer to work. This is the main entry in the middle. On the right, you remember from the plan, on the lower level, this is the administration area. So it's set up so that the front desk person will have a view of those front doors and be able to control those front doors. So it's a nice layout from a security standpoint. The left side is the gym, and again, we're looking at putting a sloping roof on part of that facility. And then the media center, I think somebody asked about what the media center was. These windows up here are, that's the outside wall of the media center on the second floor. I think, Jason, if you were to flip to the next slide, we back out a little bit and you can look at the site from a little bit farther away. And with the highway being right down here in the left corner, and then Mill Street running north and south in front of the site. We were just looking, that previous view was standing right here at this intersection looking at the front door. So you see those sloping roofs that I mentioned kind of around the perimeter of the classroom wing. And the playground back here inside the L, south facing playground, also situated so there'll be some morning sun. The softball fields off on the east side, and then the parking lot, which is on the north side of the building. The parent drop is this pathway right here. We spent a lot of time and looked at quite a number of different concepts to how to configure that parent drop so that it's efficient and it's safe. And we've looked at putting it across the front of the building. We've looked at splitting it into a couple of different locations, and ultimately what we landed on was running it across the north side of the building and then using this area of grass right here as kind of a queuing area after school for parent pickup, parents coming in cars from in that lane. And then in inclement weather, it's also adjacent to the gymnasium, so that students could potentially queue up inside the gym and be out of the weather, but then still have easy access out to the car. And then the bus loop bisects the site to the east and separates the athletic component from the K-3 school part of the site. So students exiting buses would come along the north side of this classroom wing and be able to enter into the commons, or could potentially access directly into the pods from some of the other entries that go out on the playground. So there's a number of different options there. Now, really getting a management decision. Any questions so far? Yes, ma'am. Yes, the site will be fenced. It's kind of funny you asked that. I asked our graphics team to put the fencing in, and I had some real trouble getting it in, and now it doesn't even show up very well. You know it's there. But, we're looking at, right now, at fencing kind of this part of the site along the back side of the bus loop, and then coming back here and returning to the building to capture that playground area. And potentially, again, there's some budgetary considerations, but potentially fencing the athletic component of the project as well. Does that answer your question? Thank you. Other questions? So this is a view of the playground. So the dark color represents a hard surface, and we've had quite a bit of discussion about what kind of play features and those kind of things will be part of the playground. There's actually some things that are, one of the things we talked about was bringing some color into that playground, pathways, maybe a map of the United States. So those are some things that we're looking at doing and not in the rendering yet. But there'll be some more educational components as part of that playground, a little bit more color and life to that. And then this color represents kind of the soft play area with some play structures. And there's a desire to have the potential to separate this playground so that the younger age groups can have their own play area and be separated from the older kids, but also at the same time allow that to open up and flow back and forth. There's also, you can't see it in this view, but down in the right corner, there's a fairly large expanse of turf grass play area as well. Questions? Yes, sir.
One of the ideas early on was to have some kind of a walking path. Did that get there?
That's going to be a grow, that's going to go around the perimeter of the athletic complex and grow.
There is, that's correct, the Grove site does have a walking path planned around the perimeter. We also have we do have a walking path, this kind of snake wrapping around that asphalt is intended to be a walking path. And there's some area of turf on the northeast corner of the building. We're also looking at potentially putting a walking path around that as well. Yes, sir.
Your solar panels, what do you expect to get out of them, or what's your expectation?
So the size of that array is actually driven by the Oregon law, which requires a project of this scale to spend an amount equivalent to 1.5% of the budget on renewable energy. And what that works out to is about 80 kilowatt array. And what we're showing here for solar panels is actually quite a bit less than what we need to get there. It'll take that entire section of roof and probably then some. It works out to roughly 6,000 square feet. We still have some more study to do on to figure that out, but we're around 80 kilowatts is what we're expecting. Going once? I think that was the last slide, Jason. Is that it? That's correct.
Could you go back to the full campus? I just want to make one comment because this was brought up during the community conversations. And that is, if you look at the beyond the softball fields, you don't see any sycamore trees, and that's not accurate. 2 trees will need, there's a dead walnut tree that's going, and then there are 2 trees on the extremities that will have to go to accommodate the softball fields. But 6 trees will stay.
So I was just going to say, so one of the things we're also looking at, one quick thing.
Well, in your rendering there, I mean, there's a sidewalk all the way around the thing, right?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, and the curb and.
Yep. And actually, Anderson Perry, the civil engineer that's working for Architects West, was out yesterday measuring exactly how many curbs we're going to have to cut, move, or retain. Well, one of the things I know Rob's been asking me, we will be putting together some signage. We're going to put some signage up, obviously, at the site itself, and then we're going to be working to put some signage around some of the local businesses, community bank, some of the city of Milton-Freewater, the library, just so that we can start to really push out the schedule. So stay tuned, and as you start to see some of these designs pop up around town, it is our intent to be proactive and start pushing this out. We'll also intend to keep reaching out to you through the district's Facebook page, website. We want to make sure that you're getting the messaging from us. So if we're not communicating to you, Jason, if you don't mind, the last slide is just our contact info. I mean, I'm here, so if you need to reach out to me, my information's just there on the left. I'll probably coordinate through the district office to get this PowerPoint just kind of put up so that it's accessible and downloadable. So I see a lot of people taking photos and we want to get this out there. So please, if you are interested, yes, sir.
It looks like the perimeter, there's a pretty significant walking path that will be built in by just the sidewalk and curbing.
Yes, sir, that's correct. And actually, Kevin and I have been meeting with the city of Milton-Freewater specifically, going through all of those components of the site plan. What's the city expect? What do we need to put in? But I think this has been credit to the district and to the team. We recognize the value that this facility will provide to the community. This is the community's building. Every conversation, somebody's asking, how do citizens get onto the playgrounds after hours? How do we get citizens into the building to use the gymnasium? How do we make it easy for that to happen? How do at Grove, how do we get people to get in? Amy was talking today, every day somebody at Grove is using the soccer after hours. And we want to make sure that this is for that. So just know that as we get into this is something that is front and center for us in every decision that we're making. Is we recognize the value that this investment the district has made, that the community has made for the district. we recognize the value that provides. And all of these facilities are intended for community use and access during hours, of course, for your kids, but of course after hours and on weekends. Community's got to be engaged. We're excited about just making sure that that's part of the decision. Yes, ma'am.
Is there ample parking in the area that we have for staff, faculty, and for functions?
Correct, yes. And so we actually met with the city and went through the parking question. I think if I recall, off the top of my head, there's 58 or 62 spots at the facility itself, and then we're also going to have some improvement at the district office location, and then street parking around the facility itself. So in our conversation with the city, they thought that was more than adequate for parking for the facility. We're actually just talking parking at the New Grove site today, and in the event that there's a soccer event down there, making sure that we've got enough parking either on site or around the perimeter of Grove to accommodate as necessary as well. So, it's all right, you need to steal the microphone from Kevin. So.
And the last thing I would say is, I thank Kate Witters. This presentation will be on our Facebook page and our website in the next couple days. So if any of your friends or neighbors missed this presentation, it will be on the website.
Yes, indeed. So with that, any questions for Kevin, myself, or Jason from Kirby Nagelhout?
Hey, following up on that parking, I don't know if it's our land or not, Rob, as part of this project, but across the street, right next to the river there.
Yeah, there is a little sliver there just on the east side. The district does.
Next one.
Yeah. Up in there is there was existing dirt parking there. Is that still ours?
That is the district property, correct. And we went down a rabbit hole to try to figure that out, and we just kind of pulled back a little bit, focusing on that. That is district property, long-term. We envision that probably being parking or something to that extent, depending upon the need. Other questions? Well, I will say, I know it's a Thursday night, school night. Thank you for coming out tonight. We're excited. We're going to keep kind of trying to push this information out proactively as we get a little bit further down the path. Look for us to keep pushing this out. We will collaborate and through the district office, get this information up so that the district can kind of disseminate it to the website and Facebook page. But I want to say thanks for coming down. And as always, if you've got questions or comments, my information was up there. Please feel free to reach out. So thank you for your time tonight.